The problem I have with Coco Gauff is she's had so much success that we expect her to be at a certain level. The reality to me anyway, is that she's just the consummate overachieving counterpuncher
Hmm.
who just matches up so well to different types, and she competes so hard that you forget that she's still very mortal on a number of fronts. And the problem I have is that we have this because she's so good and her ranking so high, she's won 2 slams, so on and so forth, that we forget that she's still very mortal. And
Right.
that's not to say that the rest of them aren't. It's just to say there isn't 3 or 4 huge weapons or things that you can say, you know what, Coco Gauff will destroy this player because of X, Y, and Z. She's still just what's that expression? She is the sum of her is greater than her parts.
That's actually
And I
that's
think
almost perfect.
and that's what I'm getting at. We've got to appreciate she is the sum that's greater than her parts.
Yeah.
Because if you break down the parts, as much as they're improving, by the way, the parts themselves still need some work. And I think that was my message to you is that I look at her a year ago, even 4 years ago, Alvin, her forehand is markedly different. I mean, it's better, way better. All good players continue to tweak little things in their game and whatnot. Heck, late in his career, went back to the drawing board on the one-hander,
Yep.
10, 12, whatever, grand slams in. So that's never not a thing. Her forehand is so much better. The technique is better. The ball's heavier. It's bigger. There's some other things still yet to fix. The serve looks great. There are some issues with the toss, right? There's some issues with her serve selection. She had, I don't know how many double faults, but she also had a few aces, and she had a bunch of service winners on second serves, I might add. So the action's there. It's just a matter of her finishing the rest of the forehand, I'm going to say transformation, and the serve as well. But I say it to say she's still the sum is greater than her parts, and that's the genius slash the appreciation. If you're really wanting to watch Coco from that level, you have to look at her through that lens.
And
That's
I'll say welcome to everyone who's catching up to us mid conversation. Welcome to the Best Three podcast. I'm Alvin. That's Tori. You're catching us mid conversation right after Aryna Sabalenka took out Coco Gauff in the Miami Open finals. I believe that final score was something like 6-2, 4-6, 6-3 to Miss Sabalenka, and we will get to her and some of the other players on the women's side as we've officially kind of closed the first quarter of the year. We've gotten in this weird reverse swing of hard court to start our season before we go to the clay. But to your point about this kind of like very loose Coco Gauff to Roger Federer comparison,
right.
Fed started using his feet to step in and take the backhand, and a lot of the things that we've talked about with Coco's forehand have to do, in my opinion, with her footwork. So I think the one thing to always keep in mind with her is she's been with us for so long, right? In the conversation at the top of the women's game for so long, it's hard to keep in mind that she literally just turned 22, like last week, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, she turned 22.
How long on the tour now, Alvin? 5, 6 years?
She beat Venus at Wimbledon the year I was there, which is 2019.
Wow.
Right?
This is 2026.
It's 2026.
Wow. So you're talking it's like 7 years? I mean, give or take. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And possibly longer because that was her coming out party, but there was obviously there's wild cards before that. There were, other matches, and when you're still finishing out junior / playing some pros, she wasn't full on. But wow, it's I'm glad you say that because it reminds all of us.
I gotta check that. Am I right? Yeah. God bless.
You're right.
I was there the day. I think I was there that day, and it happened on center court, and I had an outside ticket. That's what it was. Yeah, that's wild.
And she's accomplished so much in those 7 years. So that can never not be overstated. I mean, that you just have to continue to appreciate her body of work that she's put together. And I say it to say she can continue to improve these things, Alvin.
Right.
That's the crazy thing is that while we're all, armchair quarterback and technique here and there, she's done pretty well. She only has more to gain. What I got from her second set win today, it was just all out gut check. She was just like, yo. I'm gonna claw, dig, scrape, scratch, hustle, whatever I got to do to get through this second set. And there were some moments, right? There were some moments in the third where if she could have just managed a few things just a little better, she could have kept that match a little closer. And we all know that Aryna still goes through some mental and a few nerve issues to close out some matches. And that could have happened. Unfortunately, she maintained that early break and just wrote it on out. But good match, good match. And I know you're going to probably bring up the story. The story is good for tennis, and I think she is the perfect foil for Aryna Sabalenka, and no doubt many others.
I mean, when I
She's
say
determined, proves it. Go ahead.
when I say good for tennis, it's a I mean, what has Aryna Sabalenka done this year in the first quarter of the season? She's played 3 tournaments. She finaled 1 Grand Slam, and she's won. Now she's done the Sunshine Double back to back. Like, the story is she's the clear cut number 1 right now.
Right.
As you look at performance and consistency, right?
Right.
Players have some players have shown the ability to get close to her, right? To push her, to bring the best out of her. And
Yep.
occasionally it will take a superwoman effort to beat her in a final, right? Which happened, this year against Rebecca, and a few times last year. Pretty much every Grand Slam final she was in that she didn't win took the best out of someone to beat
Right.
her.
Right.
I think we're still looking at there's an evolution of Aryna Sabalenka that is still happening,
Right.
and you're starting to see her kind of go through some of these tests and check them off. I still think her and Rebecca is a bit of a toss-up. I mean, they've met in all 3 events that she's played this year. She
Yep.
lost in 3. She beat her in 3. She beat her in straights. Someone's going to finish, 3 matches 2-1 or 1-2, whatever. It's fine. I'm
Right.
not really to really take much away from that quite yet, but those two again, I've given the Hancock kind of a
Right.
these two forces meeting each other, and it's a match that's fun to watch for a different reason than this matchup is fun to watch. This is
Yep.
this takes everything out of Aryna and
Yep.
forces her to face her own demons
Yep.
and play the best version of her own tennis.
Yep. I agree with
And
that.
when you said like her ability to close out matches has been questionable at times, like Coco forces it out of her. If she's not nails on,
Yep.
Coco will let her lose. If she is nails on, she can take it from Coco. And
Her
therefore it's kind of all on
It's
her racket.
all on Aryna,
Yeah.
which is not a comfortable spot to be in. And at the same time, it's in your hands, for better or for worse. So, and that's again, which is why I think she's a perfect foil for Aryna and other players. They that have that ability to tag and to strike and step in and dictate play. And she's just Coco is just so competitive in those moments where, she's her countering ability. More important to me even than the as you mentioned, and then the court tactics is even that's even her kind of her personality, her dogged determinedness, to make sure that she's going to match you, tit for tat, so to speak. And I love that about her, and I love that about the game. And I want to make sure where it's that in itself is a superpower, right? So let's not take
Yeah.
that away by any means. Sometimes when you look at a superpower, you're looking, you're looking at at something quote unquote tangible, the old eye test, big serve, big forehand,
Yep.
you look
Yep.
block, you're looking at the serve speed, you're looking at aces, you're looking at something in the stat column, to help, to help, kind of gird your point, so to speak. And Coco, if I saw the stats, Alvin, I think for the first set that she lost 6-2, Coco had a higher first serve percentage than Aryna.
Right. Right.
Not by much, but it was, and then, but her first serve point one percentage was quite a bit lower, which tells me that the serves are there. Obviously, she had 3 double faults, I think, in the first, and Aryna didn't have any, and yet she is 2 for 7. Aryna had 7 break point chances on Coco serve with 63 or whatever percent first serve percentage made. So it wasn't like she wasn't serving well. And
Yeah.
those 3 double faults, often some of those double faults came either early in the game, mid game, or on her own ad.
Right. Right. Yeah.
We're not talking, she wasn't double faulting away. The break points were hard to come by. So anyway, I say it to say I really feel like Coco's going to continue to improve. Her serve looks way better, as I mentioned in the outset. Forehand looks better. There's some other things that need to take place a little bit. But anyway, with that said,
Let's actually go a little bit into both the serve and the forehand, but not in the way that we sometimes evaluate it from a technical standpoint. I want to go
yep,
back to your point about Coco's making a lot of first serves, right?
yep,
But her first serve percentage, points won on first serves made, not as high. So
I agree.
and I'm not even looking at the numbers right now, but when I look at if you're serving a lot of first serves in, and going off my very short term memory here of watching the match, like the gun was on her side. Like she's serving, plus 115 on all those first serves. Like it's not like she's pushing them in. When she's making them, she's making them. I think what it comes down to in this situation, and I'm going to get your opinion, is because she's spending so much effort thinking about the serve,
Yeah.
she's not thinking so much about the +1.
And the +1 ain't there,
It ain't
unfortunately.
there. It's also not there if your feet aren't there, if you're not looking for it.
Slash still looking at your serve going in the
Right.
court, right? So I think it's to your point.
So how do you
First,
train those? Do you tend to look at those like separate things, or do you have to train them together?
you have to, well, you train them together at some point. You got to make the serve first, right? When I'm going through a technical change with a player, you've been courtside with me several times when I was doing it. First of all, it takes several sessions. Uh, if they're phenomenal, it takes weeks. If they are good, and I say good as a step below phenomenal, it takes months. And if they are just pretty good to average, it takes years.
Yeah.
So because the technique has to set, I use the analogy of Jello. You gotta let it set long enough, undisturbed. And many a player has taken what could be a small tweak and made it be a hot mess because they've tweaked it, they've added this, they got an extra opinion on that. Before you know it, it's the set it and forget it did not happen. It never set. And every time you open up the refrigerator and kept putting your toothpick in the Jello, it's still watery. So
Which
that's
could be a pressure test moment in a match too. Like that
oh,
could be
100%. And
the stick it
especially,
finger in there.
you got that right. And especially if you're still playing. So let's put that there, because it's not like she stopped playing to fix things.
Right.
Which was one of my critiques, one of my few
Yep.
critiques, but that was one of my critiques. The second part is, now that you can kind of get past the serve, the location, and you're actually making the serve, you can now get your mind on to, I'm making it and I'm looking for this type of return back off of these kind of shots. Her out wide slice today, album, was phenomenal. I mean, she had aces, she had first strikes, she had, service winners off of that serve routinely off the deuce side out wide slice. I mean, it was a joke. Every time she went out there, uh, Aryna had trouble. I mean, and Aryna was even looking for it, and her can opener, her buggy whip, nothing could really hold it. The problem is she missed it. Aryna tagged the forehand
Right.
on the second serve so often it was feast or famine a little bit for Coco. Going back to the point though, after I work on the serve itself, I start doing a heavy dose of +1 feeds, even if I'm on that side of the court with the player, just to mentally get them to move on from watching the stinking ball go in the box. Because now you've got to get your feet and your mind on the ball, which was the whole point of the serve, was to get your +1. And now we have to start getting that part trained in. There was even, I'll do a drill 30 minutes of every 2-hour, 3-hour practice where the players just have to do serve +1, and it's a race. I have the server do a serve +2, and the returner does a return +1. So you really got to race to make sure you can establish a first +1, and then the returner is doing their best to go against you with their +1, and then that next plus that the servers, so now their second shot post serve has to be a ball that's big enough to go through the person, assuming the first strike wasn't.
Yeah.
And if my returner can catch that ball, okay, then that's a let. So I got the serve. I assume I'll make the serve. The returner makes the ball. Great. Here's my +1. The returner kind of knows I'm going up a court, going behind him. Great. If I had a great serve and a great +1, that happened. But that didn't happen every time, and nor should you expect it to happen every time. Now, here comes that ball 3. You're serving. If you can take that ball open court, back behind him, or coming forward, that the returner cannot catch, stop, or somehow impede the movement on,
Yep.
that counts. That's a quality exchange right there. And if you think about it, those of us who know who play at a decent level, that's very hard to do time in and time out. And I know my players are doing well if they can do that drill. And to my point, that's my third drill, so to speak, the third progression, the final progression, going into point play, because now I know you're not thinking about it. Now I know you're looking for the +1, and now I know you're using your serve well to set up. And if you get the occasional ace, great. If you get the occasional +1 winner, great. But you really feel good about what you can do on the other 75% of the time.
Right. And it's interesting thing. As you were going, we're talking about the +1s, almost the evolution of let's say tennis, and all the way from like Navratilova to like now, right?
Sure.
Serves are typically, and I'm gonna going off script here. Got a racket, right?
Oh, yeah.
Serves are typically held with a continental grip, right?
Yep.
Boom. You hit the serve. Boom. When we're serving in volley, same grip, right? You're not having to make a lot of adjustments there. It's just
Yep.
see ball, hit ball. Hopefully
got
your
it.
technique and your feet are working well. As we slide over to from a continental to an Eastern, if you will, right? A little easier to pick it up, do some things, right?
Yeah.
Semi-Western's a little bit more of a compromise. You need a little more time now, right? So if I'm going and I have an extreme semi-Western, right? It's going to be really hard for me to go big first serve with a strong return coming back, have enough time to then create a first strike.
That's
If I'm too tight on the baseline, I'm actually doing myself a disfavor. I'm at disservice, right?
Right.
And so, and we talked about this, I don't know, a couple weeks ago with Coco. That positioning battle, right? When you talk about her serve and her forehand, to put those two together and make them weapons, it's just going to be hard.
Yep.
It's just going to be hard. And so for her, it's just going to be a different path. And that's probably okay. Because I going over to her forehand, I think I saw some things today that make me think, I now see why this battle is so tricky for Aryna.
Yeah.
Because it's so different. Nobody actually hits the ball like Coco does.
That's true.
It's because of her extreme grip, her flight path is different.
Yeah.
She doesn't hit a consistent ball, right? So it's really
It's
hard to get. It's hard. Exactly. You can't get grooved on it, right? Where her and Elena, it's just like they're just arm wrestling, basically. Yeah, they're just.
Who's going to her Coco? 100%.
Right. And so, but you look at Coco, it's a lot of like, you saw Aryna, like sometimes will get caught off guard. Coco might happen to sting one, especially at the backhand side. She's like, oh, slice forehand off the baseline. And then sometimes Coco goes with her normal shot, which is a little higher, maybe a little bit of action on it. And Sabalenka was a little like unsure with her footing about how to move in and take that ball, because it's not a ball she sees with any kind of regularity.
Right. And then you come in on it and she passes well.
Right. So it's almost like
today open stance down the line slider. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like that, she makes it look so routine, but that is a hard shot.
But it's like, but she can't necessarily, Coco doesn't do so well dictating off of that forehand side, but when she's not tasked with doing anything except for run around and hit it, that's when, and like that's why this matchup looks the way it does, because Aryna's going to make her run around and hit balls, and Coco's going to make Aryna continue to execute on offense, and if she does, she wins. But it's like a 60-40 split or 55-45 split.
And on a bad, like the first set, it's closer to a 70-30. But Alvin,
or like the second set, or like French Open, the other way.
Alvin, the first set was 6-2 Aryna, and I think the point total was 30 points to 22. Even though it was a 4-game, seemed like a blowout, it was 8 points difference. And it was 2 for 7 on break points. So it's not like it wasn't contested. I mean, the score didn't look as close. but you're talking 8 points, legit 8 points difference in the two, and she only won 2 games. So I say that to say you got to appreciate this matchup is very a lot closer. I want to add to your previous point
Please
about
do.
the curve and the forehand for Coco. You also got to add in that the women's game, the return is the weapon. So you add on top of that, which makes it even more difficult to make that happen. And I felt a ton of Aryna's errors came off of the Coco return, who's obviously a great returner in her own right. I think Coco's averaging, I want to say they said 46% return of serve and breaking serve. I mean,
That's wild. She's
that is
breaking
crazy.
almost every other service game.
Period. For the tour. We're not
Right.
talking today. Today
Well,
she did a good job today in the tour.
and
I think she's like number 3 and 4 in the world.
It was 4, but like I need to look this up. Who's ahead of her? Like
Exactly.
who's breaking with more frequency than that? That's
we're back in us. Sabalenka.
I'm about to say Sabalenka might actually be higher.
Right. The list is small to be sure. and you know what I mean? It's got to be. It's got to be those 3.
Yeah, that's actually I need to look this up. I'm sure actually if you're looking it up, please put it in the comments. I want to know who 1, 2, and 3 are in terms of breaking serve percentage. If Coco's 4, because they showed it during the match, right? That Aryna's number 1 in holding serve, and Coco is 4th in breaking serve. I want to know where Aryna sits on that breaking serve list.
Right.
Actually,
I got a hunch that tells me she's 2 or 3. I don't give her 1 on that, even though her ranking's there. I bet Iga's up there pretty high. If I had to gun to my head, you had to make me pick one, I'd say Iga, just because she is so good at it. And again, in terms of breaking. Now, I'm not talking everything else.
Okay, well, Aryna's lost 1 match this year, and she is number 1 in holding serve. So if you're not breaking her, how else is she winning the match?
That's what I'm saying. It would again. I'm saying too. I mean, you're not. I'm not talking. She ain't 15. You know what I mean? She's got
right.
on her own right. But anyway, I just to your point, I like the foil that it creates. I like the polar opposites that it is. It really gives. If you're an Aryna who likes the rhythm, if you're a Rebecca that likes the rhythm, if you like these kind of toe to toe matchups, and it's just about us see ball hit ball and who can take the strike, who has better balance, who has better leverage, on striking that ball. I like that matchup a lot, but at the same time, then there's the, on one end of that spectrum, you got the Paulinis and the, and then Swiatek and then Coco, all kind of in a sense in a row of the taking it early or taking it deep, but they're very good at countering. They're just different versions of that same kind of a very, very countering slash counter punish style. So it's I was not only entertained, I was very impressed with the high quality of the of how contested the points were. Obviously a lot on Coco serve slash the return games. The Sabalenka serve games are going to either be, as again, feast or famine. It's going to be an ace. It's going to be a first strike. She did a great job today of working that ball wide instead of trying to go through Coco. I thought in the second set she got away from her strategy. She started going back through her. Coco was back to being Briar Rabbit in the Briar Patch. I mean, she was just tagging balls, loved it. And it's hard to take an on the rise ball and angle it off and take a little bit off and hit to the corner. You saw a lot of funky looking finishes. The backhand was kind of stiff and straight. She was trying to yank it over there and finesse it over there, which is hard to do, especially if you don't get a lot of rhythm and have a lot of long points. And when you do get a long point, you're trying to get your rhythm as well, but you go to that Coco Gauff backhand, and now you're fending it off. You're not striking. You're not in control. I think there was one point, I think in the third, where they had about 6 to 8 exchanges each on the back. Maybe not that long. Maybe 5 each on the backhand side. Backhand to backhand to backhand to backhand. I think Aryna actually won that exchange. And it was almost one of the longer points of the match, especially off the backhand. But you're so busy trying not to let Coco get a groove off the backhand that you don't go to the backhand. And I think it actually gave Aryna a lot of confidence to know I can match up backhands with you. I don't want to do it often.
Right.
Given the need, I can do it if I have to. It's just not the easiest or the most efficient way to do so.
Kind of with that being said, like, okay, so this event in particular, we got Coco in the final. She pushes Sabalenka. We got to keep the main thing. Aryna is on one right now. She has found the perfect mix of like, how often do I need to play in order to be fresh and ready? She skipped all of the Middle Eastern swing, comes back, takes 2 tournaments on the trot. Like that's so whatever she's doing.
Two Masters 1000s on the trot. I
Two
mean, to
Masters
your
1000s. I mean, the women are only playing Masters 1000s right now. I mean, they've been Grand Slam, Masters. That's it's kind of it's a pretty crazy run. And you start looking at some of the other women who have played, all 5 of those events or
right.
4 of those events, and with varying levels of, some up and downs in there. But I think she's shown that path works for her. I mean, Rebecca did something similar. I think she went to Doha, pulled out in the middle of Doha, and then didn't play Dubai, and then went, finals, semifinals here.
Sure.
So her only 2 losses of the year have been against Aryna, and then beat her once as well. So those two are still meeting each other at the ends of tournaments. With Rebecca not quite being ranked, her ranking did not kick in before the cutoff of this tournament, so we got them in the semis as opposed to the finals. That's fine, whatever. But that's how tournaments seem like they want to end, with those 2 ladies. So I still feel pretty good about those 2 as our clear cut, leaders in the clubhouse coming out of the first quarter of the season. Yeah. The Coco thing, we're still not out of the woods yet. Right?
In terms of
best case scenario, Coco Gauff gets into the finals against Aryna Sabalenka, and some of the things that she's still working on as a player, still relatively young player, right, are prohibiting her from getting over the edge, right? Sure. But if we go all the way back to the Coco Gauff of the last, this is called 9 months now.
Okay.
How many top 10 wins do you think she has off the top of your head? Post French Open.
I'm going to give you a number. I'm going to say, of the time she's played, I'm going to throw a number out and say 20. And I'm going to say, of that 20, I would say just under half. I would say 9 or 10 of 20.
9 top 10 wins out of the 20 matches she's played?
Of the top 20 players played.
Oh, the top 20 players she's played. Okay.
Of the 20 times she may have played a top 10 player is what I'm
okay, she hasn't played a top 10 player 20 times. It's been closer to
so my number
like half of that.
10, I'd say 4 or 5, and so on and so forth.
It's been 2. She's got 2, with a handful of them in there. And she got those 2 in the same tournament that she ended up winning Wuhan. She beat JPEG and Paolini, but she's
wow.
Yeah, so it's we're not out of the
total. How many totals, just so I can have my
if I did the quick math here, that's 1,
5,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, it's been 3. So 3 out of 7.
Okay, so about kind of I was thinking right, but
no, you're right. It's 4. She beat Iga at Indy Cup, so at the United Cup. So it's like 4 out of 8 or 9. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So my average is correct. My numbers were way off, and that's for the last 9 months. She only played that many.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's the weird. The losses are weird. They're all over the place.
A bunch of losses to a lot of players outside of and hadn't gotten there.
Well, I mean, obviously she lost to Naomi at the U.S. Open, right? But she lost to Jasmine in Cincinnati, and she lost to Mboko at in Canada.
Who wasn't top 10 yet? You're right.
She wasn't top 10 yet. Yeah, right. Anisimova in China.
Anisimova, who probably was still coming up at the time, wasn't quite.
No. She lost to Anisimova. She lost to Anisimova.
That was one of her 9, give or take.
Yeah.
That was last year. Okay. Still, I would think she'd play 20. That's why I went with 20. I'm like, she's got to play 20 over the course of 30 tournaments. She's played, she gets to the quarters, semis, or whatever, finals for that matter. Heck, she won French last year.
Right, but it's just on the since the French Open, and she had a fantastic clay court season last year. But since then, she has not necessarily been performing consistently at that level. It's more of a she's performing like a 5 through 8 seed as opposed to a 1 through 4 seed. But I think that's going to kind of happen with her. Like she is as a player who doesn't necessarily dictate to get her wins. She is going to rely on rhythm that is generally provided by other players.
That's true.
Also, she needs a decent amount of errors as well. And
Mahova is a good example of that.
Right. I mean? Mahova, she owns Mahova, but because Mahova, all the things that she does, it fits quite well with how Coco plays. Like, you're gonna keep coming to the net off of a ball that's not that big. I'm just gonna go right by you. Like, it's fine. And then Muhova doesn't hit a ball that's big enough to go through Coco.
Nor big enough serve to catch up for the or to set the tone in the game. Aryna can start off a game with an ace and then have a big four and be up 30 love. She can squander. She squandered a lot of them today. She can squander a 30 love lead and get back 30 all and still be in control.
Right.
Mahova does not possess that same firepower, the same package to blow, squander, a 40 love into a 40-30 and then dig one out and then still feel like she can still get up 40 love on you in the next game.
Right.
And then hold it love the next service game, right? And so it's not like, and that's why it's a very, well, it can be a bit volatile. It works, and if you have that big game, you're gonna lean in on it, and where Mahova doesn't have quite that lever yet as well. Lever, she's not as tall as Aryna or even Rebecca for that matter. So that makes sense. The number, I was on point with the number, just with the ratio, not with the number of total, but
Sure.
that kind of makes sense when I think about it.
So when we start looking at like the landscape of, let's just specifically the top 10 players right now,
Yep.
you're starting to see some shifting, right? Your top two are pretty clear, and this might end up being something that we say again when we start talking about the men's later on, maybe tomorrow. The top two are clear.
Yep.
Everyone else is kind of like, who's third here? Who's
Right.
third? Who's fourth? And on the women's side, like, we'll get to Iga in a second. Iga's in the lurch right now. Amanda is somewhat in a space. Coco pops her head up every once in a while, and when she does, it looks good. I've been really, I'm gonna if for anyone who's been watching this show for a while understands how this is you're not twisting my arm necessarily to say this, but Jessica Pegula looks like the clear-cut number 3 player in the world right now.
Well,
She's been
I
bang
agree.
on since the beginning of the year. She's lost, I think, 3 matches, and all 3 of them have been against Aryna Sabalenka.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Not a
right.
bad. Not a bad year, and that's a match she's gonna lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's a clean hitter going against a cleaner hitter. She's 5'7" going against 6 feet. I mean, she's and Atlanta is fast and 6 feet. She might be the faster, taller, cleaner striker, and that's hey, if you told me you're going to be 98% of ladies in the top 100, I would say sign me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to speak, or if I'm JPEG, and that's there's no shame in that game. To lose to an Atlanta Rebecca who is, let's face it, has the kryptonite of most players. You know what I mean? So
That's
the top three is a good one. I think, and this is more where I'm going with this. We talked about this early in the year when we were going into this Australian Open of things and how there was going to be a new kind of a new top 10, right? We talked about
yeah.
the 5 through 10 were going to get pushed out. There was a new 3 or 4 that were going to insert themselves, right? And we hadn't really given, I didn't at least. I knew Vicky was coming. I was plugging her in that 10 through 12 range. She's right there on the outside, kind of clawing her way in. I didn't think she'd be top 10 this fast. I mean, was she headed there? For sure. Did I think she'd get to that this quickly? No. Did I think Bencic would kind of be threatening to be this close? No, not now. And I didn't think that Jasmine would fall as quickly. And I definitely didn't think Iga would, right? I thought Iga would be right there, not 3 or 4, but certainly, or 2, I guess she was. But I thought she'd still hover at 5, 6, 7 in that range, depending on clay season coming back. She can crank it back up because she's still one of the best clay quarters on the women's tour. So I feel like it's happened faster than we thought, or at least faster than I thought. And and now we're officially going into clay. It's going to get really interesting as this whole thing goes down. It's going to be a very, very interesting. I think Mahova plays pretty well on clay. Vicky is going to have a lot of chances for points to gain. Let's be honest, because she probably didn't have a huge clay court season last year, and other players, like him or who are coming up, or this is going to be a very, very strong tail of the tape because you got Eagle who got to the semis, Coco who won it. A lot of points to defend on both sides. Both those players have a little bit of, maybe some blood in the water. And the Sharks are out, Alvin. The Sharks are out, and to me, it's going to be a very, very strong contest, and that makes every bit of momentum you can gain going into the French all the more important to have going in.
Yeah, and to your point, like when we started, you made this point about players who were moving out of the top 10 and into the top 10. I It's interesting. Vicky's a really interesting one because up to this point in the year, I would say like she's probably performed at about 4 or 5 in the world level. Like to be honest with you, I watched her match between her and Mira Andreeva in Miami a couple days ago when I was there.
Sure, sure.
I watched every ball of that match. The demeanor that Vicky has been carrying herself with, I noticed it in Doha first, and then
Right.
all the way up through. She's no nonsense right now. Like
Right.
she
Right, like
believes
she
that
expected in that match.
she is
100%. I saw
she
that too.
carries herself on the tennis court like she is every bit top 10 in the world
Right.
and a contender to win Grand Slams. And I think,
100%.
even Andy Roddick predicted it a little while ago, but like, I mean, it's not a far-fetched prediction. It's
Right.
she's the truth. She's the truth. And all the things that you can knock on her, like the second serve, it's shoring up.
Yep.
The forehand that she hits sometimes late, she still hits it. Yeah. You know who else hit a forehand like that too? Steffi Graf. It
100%.
very, 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 very
100%.
similar.
Yeah.
Worked out fine for Steffi. I'm not saying Vicky is trending towards Steffi
Well,
Graf. That
very
is
good.
that air is rarefied, my friend.
No doubt.
But great players work around it.
Yeah.
They work around it. Coco Gauff has won 2 Grand Slams with a questionable forehand. Okay,
And
great
100%.
great players will work around it, but Vicky is she's gonna pop one of the next 8. Like it just seems like it's going to happen at some point. But you're starting to see the levels kind of like create themselves. Like
Round 5 for sure.
Jessica is bumping up against. She is maximizing right now. She is bumping up against the arenas, not the arenas. It's Aryna and Elena. Like that big player over best of 3 sets is typically going to beat her.
Right.
Fine. Okay. Everyone
Right.
else fall in line because
Right.
she's holding the middle of the court and you're not
Wasn't it
doing anything about
JPEG
it.
and Aryna last year in the final? What this tournament?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I
Memory
think
serves.
so.
I
Yeah.
think she held off Ayala and had we were talking about I remember the podcast we were talking about how JPEG is that litmus test for 5 in the world, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she got to the final
Yeah.
of this, lost to Aryna, 'cause I remember I'm pretty sure Aryna won it last year. But you're exactly right, and now where you mentioned while she's the litmus, that litmus test is on hard court. I don't know if so much on clay. While she's not terrible, the clay court now exposes more of the movement, exposes more some of the things.
Second serve.
And second serve, and just in general, you need a little bit more time, and the players that hit the ball a little cleaner, tend to be a little bit more they hit themselves out of the coverage area a little bit, and that's where Coco shines. So, while she has a lot of points to defend, she's actually pretty good on clay herself. This clay court season has a lot in store, and I got to be honest with you, Alvin, I'm thrilled to look up who has current momentum now. There's so many contenders now on the WTA in the top 10. I mean, the previous top 10 aren't terrible. I mean, they're pretty darn good.
Uh,
And while they're on the slide on the schneid trying to kind of get their footing back, they're still darn good. And the 3 or 4 moving in are going to continue to, push. Mira ain't done. You know what I mean? Anisimova ain't done, as far as they had an early exit or 2 from, Bencic ain't done, I mean, you got these players that are starting to play some ball. Mahova may play better on clay from time to time, especially with her ability to come forward and knock some balls off. I mean, there's just Jovic is still coming.
she's
There's
right there.
still so many players that are that can still come through and play spoiler here, and in addition to your current top 10, so man, it's gonna be, what I hope is that each one of them goes to different, 500s or whatever, and they don't all beat up on each other all the way going in, and everybody shows up in Paris at Roland Garros a little healthy, seasoned, ready, but healthy. You know what I mean? That was my only dig last year, was so many players were pulling out because of the length of season. And unfortunately, this year we added 2 more, right, to the WTA. So it'll be fun to see. Who were you surprised with? I don't want to get ahead. So if you have something else, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Who were you surprised with? I know you were there on site for a day or 2. Who were you surprised with that exceeded your expectation and you weren't looking for them to do so? WTA.
On the WTA. the first match that I saw, and it was Muhova versus Iyala.
Okay.
I was I was both shocked and disappointed at the one-sidedness of that match. I think Muhova beat her like 0-1, something like
Right.
that. And
Right.
it was like it was bad. Like it was bad. And with Alex, the ceiling is going to come from her ability to dictate, right? Her ball is it's thin.
Yep.
Like is as good as she does on the backhand side of taking the ball on the rise and trying to
Yep.
play, close to the baseline there. That second serve is that's candy corn. And then the forehand's so thin, but
Yep.
yet she, especially with a crowd behind her, like it turns into a
Yeah.
real vibe, which it lifts her as
Sure.
well. But Carolina, who also is known for getting herself into long matches for no reason, I was
Right.
shocked at how surgical she was with her. Like just
Right.
dismissed her like it was a warm up. And so
Right.
that took me a bit. I spent a lot of time. I think I bounced over and watched a men's match, and then watched Muhova versus. Sorry, not Muhova. Um, Andreeva versus Mboko.
Right.
Um, I wasn't so. There's something interesting happening with Mira Andreeva right now, as far as her perception. I think amongst fans.
Okay.
And
Which
this
is
is like, well, she was this bright-eyed kind of darling of the tour for the last 2 years.
yep.
Quirky girl, always smiling, always great for a great one-liner in an interview. Her little crush on Andy Murray, all these things like that made people like her. But after she went off on that lady, or after her exit to
Wells.
Indian Wells caught a lot of fire, I was sitting with some older ladies who were kind of on her ass,
Yeah.
oh, her attitude sucks and blah 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 blah. And it's like, wow, like this and
Yeah.
these ladies play tennis. They used to go to Key Biscayne. They
Old school. Lipton.
yeah, yeah, and one lady's like, yeah, I have Tennis Channel on all day long. It's like people always say, you come to my house, like there's a TV on, it's got Tennis Channel. I'm like, mad respect, but
Yeah.
the perception of her is like starting to get a little iffy. And then you see her in Conchita. I wonder how long we've got on that one. The one
Right.
that got you there might not be the one that gets you across the finish line. You know what I mean?
Sure. And that.
So
Yeah.
that might be going. I'll get to that with Iga and Amanda in a minute, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that one was a little, huh. And then also there's starting to be this like every player who has the ability to get over the finish line and not just win tournaments, but win Grand Slams, win the big ones, they've all got this certain X factor about them.
Okay.
Like last year, I feel like Mira came out, looked like a different player, much stronger, serving bigger, and was able to pick up two Masters 1000s back to back. I think it was Dubai and Indian Wells, right? If I'm right, I think that's
Yeah.
correct.
Definitely.
Um, she is kind of, I don't know, that hasn't been there. Maybe that was an anomaly. Maybe that was not her true top end. Maybe that was just a good few weeks, whatever. But I haven't seen that since. I haven't seen anything special from
Mm.
her. Like especially when you watch her and Mboko play, there's a lot of similarities there, except for Mboko's got a little bit of another gear, a
One more
little bit of
gear.
a gear, one gear,
100%.
and that's the difference between what I think is going to be like.
She's like my motorcycle. Got 6 gears, not 5. You know what
Right,
I mean? And that
exactly.
that extra gear is all the difference. I don't think she's gotten worse. I think the rest of the top end have caught her, and they've now sorted themselves. I think Mira needs to
And she's not that fast either. That's the other one. Like her foot speed is like
which is why
foot
she
speed.
always went heavier, I thought, which to her credit. When I watched the match with her and Boko, and yeah, you were courtside, I was watching from TV.
Your vantage point might have been better than mine. I don't
Might
like
have been
watching. I
better,
was
but
literally on the sideline though, and I hate you.
yeah.
It's not a good. It's not a good look.
But you're seeing the quality of the ball.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
watching trajectory and tactics better. You're watching and hearing and seeing. Courtside to me is always a better version of whose ball's bigger, who's struggling a little more. When you're watching TV, you have a great view. It's like watching a real good anything in person. You pick up a little more of the granular. You know what I mean, as opposed to the overview.
Yeah.
I felt she was making a point to say, I might lose this match. I think it was 8 versus 9. Weren't they like 8, 9 seed or whatever?
Yep.
But I'm going to out-hit you. I am going to see if everybody talks about your ball spin, how fast you are. I've never seen Mira hit the ball that flat and that big until that match. I've seen her win a bunch of matches. I've seen her roll. I've seen her defend almost too much. And I'll be honest, part of me was kind of like, wrong person to try it on, but like that you can do it. I like the fact that this is almost personal to you, that you wanted to prove to yourself that you could out-hit her. And she did it on multiple occasions. She didn't do it well. She aired, I should say, out a few times, more times than she normally would. But I felt like it was her own, I need to hit the ball. That's what the top 5 are doing. And I have to say, to some degree, I kind of agree with her because I feel like she's at a point where she needs to have that extra gear. And if all she does is keep rolling and she's not that fast, she's going to get caught being that counter puncher, can't counter punish, she ain't fast enough. And she now has to decide, do I get faster or do I get my ball bigger? I think we both know you can't get faster overnight, but you could, in fact, hit the ball bigger. She can hit a good ball. So I was actually pleased to see her tactic change, albeit in a losing effort. So that was what I was saying, and I thought it was a pretty good, ball striking wise, was pretty fun to see. As much as I say, as it kind of matched up into Mboko's hands, but that was my question. I wanted to know when you were there, who you saw and who kind of surprised you a little bit. Who did it for me was Belinda Bencic. I felt like this tournament, again, I saw her play that good match against Amanda. She's just, I was in my mind, she was one I was kind of moving, not necessarily out to pasture, but certainly didn't think she would be, top 8, top 10 per se, but she's showing me, buddy, I still have it. My gold medal in my trophy case was not by mistake. And her serve looks better. A lot of parts of her game, much like a Svitolina, she's just showing you that, buddy, experience still counts for a lot.
Yeah.
And still do what I can do with the best of them. And, don't sleep on me. And I was really impressed with that.
It feels like, I mean, Belinda's another one that's been around for a long, long time, and even being off tour for a year and some change with having her daughter. I think she had a girl. Pretty sure she had a girl. She's only 29,
Right.
and I say that to say, like, Aryna's 28, Jessica's 32, so like she's got some time. Like,
Sure.
and she's playing at a solidly out of 10 in the world kind of level, and some like. If she's got everything else is calm in her life and she's just kind of focused on this and then being a mom, similar to Svitolina, like you're seeing, I mean, maybe some of the anxiety about being a professional tennis player and maybe having kids. Now that you've had one in your back, that's settled.
It's now settled, right?
Yeah, it's settled, and so now you can go forth. Exactly. So Belinda, I was, similar to some others and very different to yourself. Like last year, I was like, it's kind of this could be like a one and done kind of situation. But no, she looks solid. She's beating good players. She is showing that like
not just letting them
beating them. Beating them. Another woman that impressed me. So I in the night session, a good friend of mine was able to hook us up with some corporate seats. So I got a very, very good look at Mr. Yannick Sinner. I'm talking 6 rows back in the corner, my friend, off court level. That was, we'll get to that another time.
Yeah.
But after him,
Perhaps
Elena, say what?
Perhaps tomorrow after that.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I'll change shirts. But after him was Rybakina against Talia Gibson. Now, Rybakina, I've happened to see Rybakina a lot in the last few months. So that's fine. That's well worn. Everything I said about her coming out of DC when I watched her from her coach's box, that's still the same. She beat Talia, I think, like 2-2. But Talia, she's 21 years old, out of Australia.
Yeah, it could be good.
No, that's happening. That is going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah, she looks like the next player to break inside the top 10 through 20 or 10 through 15 with the quickness. I saw everything she was doing. Didn't she beat Jovic? Wasn't that the win she had before? Who did she beat?
Who did Talia beat?
I'm
I
pretty
might be
sure
able
it
to
was.
get the
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah. When you see her, you're like, oh, that's a real professional. Like
Right.
she is.
How
That's a
tall is she?
big, strong woman. How tall is Talia? She did beat Jovic. I'll have to get that to you in a second. I'll take a
Yeah,
look at it
okay.
here.
I thought it was because I saw that match, and I was so impressed with how, because Jovic hits a pretty clean ball,
She does.
and I haven't seen a player remind me of Kim Clijsters since Kim Clijsters. And she reminded me of a little bit of Kim with a little bit of not so much Barty, but a lot of Kim just didn't have the splits and the other, the crazy on the runs. But Kim, as those of us who remember Miss Clijsters, hit a great ball off both sides. She could roll, she could drive. But when she got into her groove and started kind of hitting 2 or 3 bangs, she could go cross, line off either side, but did it with mobility, where Babs does a nice job of, Krajicova does a nice job of doing it, but she's not as fast. Clijsters was faster, and that's what Talia looked like to me. She looked like a
You nailed it.
Talia looked very, very. I'm going to say Clijster-esque again. She has to earn that comparison, to your point, rare air. But that's what she looked like, and when I saw her spurts, I'm like, ooh, this is not even hard for her. This is kind of normal. She wasn't phased, so
Right.
I was actually
Yeah.
impressed that Rebecca, of course, Rebecca covers the court better than most. So when I saw those scores, I was like, ooh, I thought it'd be a little closer. But again, there's the Rebecca of things, right? She is 6 feet tall and moves like an absolute, like a Porsche Carrera GT4. I mean, she just covers court so well for a lady that has those kind of levers and those kind of limbs. So anyway, I say it to
Well,
say
that's
I saw her. I said that girl's gonna be good. She was my wow. I'd never heard of her save for her name and in a few tournaments. And when I finally got a chance to watch her, I was impressed.
so. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kim Clijsters, because if you take away what we know about Kim Clijsters' career, I'm going to go ahead and say she is a more athletic version of, let's say, like Linda Noskova.
Okay, fair.
She moves very, very similar players. And I think what you saw against Rebecca was that Talia ran out of steam, right? She went through qualifying at Indian Wells, right? And then qualified and then beat Alexandrova. She beat
Right.
Towson. She beat Paolini and then lost to Noskova in the quarterfinals in 3 sets, right? So again, but she had to qualify. Same thing because of so she made the quarterfinals, but the cutoff, again, she had to qualify for Miami. So she qualified for Miami. And then
Miami's got like a 4 or 5 round quali. I mean, the Miami
she had to do the work, right?
Right.
She had to do the work, but then again, she also won 3 rounds after that. So I think she just kind of hit the wall a little bit. But when I watched the first set and then went out to another match, and I was like, she's probably going to lose this match, but it's not because she can't hang. She's right there. Like she looks like she belongs here. Just a little bit out of gas, but
sure.
yeah, that was
after 6, 7 matches that happens. You know what I mean?
yeah, 2 tournaments in a row. Yeah,
Yeah, good for
that's
her.
a lot.
And again, Alvin, we're talking about there's more people moving in. At some point, can only be 20 in the top 20, and we're talking about more players moving in. Woo! I'm telling you, it is a great time to be a tennis fan with the current WTA. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it's really it's there's so much depth. There's so much parity in the various styles, and so many new faces, so many very good current faces. Former, I'm going to say, I don't want to put them out to pasture. Former faces, current faces, and new faces. It's a really good time. There's legit. If you and I really went through the numbers, there are 30 legit top 20s right now. If you had to go through,
Yeah.
and I would say that I'm teetering on 32, but my point being that are legit, either have been or were, and I don't want to. I'm obviously I'm spitballing the number of the specifics, but there are 32 top 20s within the last 18 months that have been at those numbers that are there. I'm not talking about a player that hit top, 11 or 12 and hasn't been heard from in the last year and a half. I'm talking about they are legit. They were there, and they're now, unfortunately, due to points and maybe an injury or two, still got players like Queen Win that are still not 100% back. Or they're still getting their matches back. There are at least 30 of that top 20, which makes that top 10 even harder, which makes those matchups going up. I mean, Alvin, you still got play. Noskov is no slouch. Claire Taus is no slouch. Marta Kostick is no slouch. I mean, you got these players
Right, yeah.
that are still, that's your early match. That's your second, third round of a 1,000. That's not an easy match. Vicky Mboko is now becoming that new top 10. But you still got people on the free. You still got to get through Alex. What's my girl's name? You said earlier,
Alexandrova.
Alexandrova. Who's
Yeah.
and her and who's the other one that was kind of in that same kind of a quiet top 10. She's in that, I forget her name. She's in that same spot that she's there. She hasn't had a ton of huge wins, but she's always relevant in your quarters and and round of 16s of some of these tournaments. Her name will come to me. That's your level that's still in there. And that's my point. And we still got my girl Lefty Tattoos, that's been injured for a little bit. Won the French.
Czech, Vondrasova.
That haven't even come back full on yet. I mean, I'm just telling you, there's so many good players, personalities. This is going to be a heck of a season. It's going to be a heck of a season.
Let me ask you one more thing here before we get out of here. We've had 3 in the middle, relatively not middle of the season, but like we're in the season, right? We've had 3 players on the women's side who have parted ways with their coaches fairly recently. Emma Raducanu and Francisco Roig split. Wim Thesset and Iga split. And then I think it was today or yesterday, Anna Samova and Rick Vlies
or whatever.
I'll hack his name, so I'm not gonna disrespect him like that. Splitting ways less than right at a quarter way through the season, right? Like, so obviously, we don't know what happened with the Anna Samova thing. That could be, maybe she hasn't had the first few months that she intended on. Maybe it was in reaction to something else. Like you're already seeing like some possible quick pairings of like, okay, Iga just split with Wim, and she's training at Nadal's Academy in Spain, getting ready for the clay court season. Does someone like Roy like make sense like right away? Like maybe so. Okay, fine. Helping her take a different direction in her tennis right now. Raducanu, don't really know where she's going, and it's not really a conversation for today.
That's an outlier.
Yeah. And then Amanda splitting with Rick. My question to you is, when we're making these coaching adjustments or switches in flight here, right? It's not, we don't have an off season. We've got like a week to get ready for clay court because Charleston is, I fly out on Tuesday. It's next week. And then the men are starting, obviously the week after that. From a coach's standpoint, when you get a player really in flight in the middle of the season, similar to Coco and Brad just a couple years ago when they joined up beginning of the hardcourt season, and then boom, U.S. Open champion. What can you do? What can you not do when we've got tournaments coming up 5-10 days after you're joining with a new player?
I'm going to come at this, and I'll try to be brief. I'm going to come at this from 2 standpoints. Number one, from the coach.
Okay.
The coach has to have a pretty much surefire way of being an expert on X reason why you're getting him or her. Okay. Clay court season. This person was a clay court expert. This person was a phenomenal mover. This person was great tactically at handling certain types of players. Boom. The coach is just the personality fit you need right now. And that was more the Brad Gilbert and Coco thing in that at that point in time to get her, which I thought he did a great job with her and Andy when Andy was coming over the hump and getting, and he split with Tariq Benavides, who was his coach for a long time through juniors and got him to the pros. Brad got him over that hump. That was a tactics mindset. That was a mindset of getting a person to really kind of understand the Grand Slam top 5 of things, top 10 of things, which Tariq was not. Now, I say that to say that's on the coaching side. Personality, great with tactics and a certain surface. Clearly, if I wanted to do well at Wimbledon, I would probably get somebody who is English or who loved or South African who loved to volley, came in a lot, was a great double special, or at some point, somebody just a few pegs below Tim Henman himself, right? And my point, and to the point where that's because that's what I'm looking to do. That's a matchup that's going to work for me, and they are very good at it. I take and trust their judgment. So those are the things to me on the coaching side. And obviously they have to be available, right? On the player side, I have to know myself, Alvin. At that point, and I can't overstate that. You have to know what you need. Every player has a developmental plan. They've had one since they were 10, 12, 13 years old with any level of coaching. And they still have to know where their needs are. You have to be very realistic with this. You cannot assume, right? Amanda had a phenomenal year last year. Phenomenal. She can't assume that she's in the best shape possible to maintain such a run all year long,
Mhm.
right? The year's going to take its turn. She's going to have to get somebody who's going to push her differently, who their voice is going to continue to push them and motivate them. And maybe there's a comfortability issue with Rick, or maybe there's a comfortability and they're just, maybe that's the problem, right? You've got to continue to have someone to push you to your next level. And sometimes that change is a good thing. But the player has to know that the player coming in, okay, I always use my favorite example with Fed picking, uh, I'm always forgetting his name.
Lubicic.
Lubicic, thank you. With the getting Ivan. It was a tactical decision to get a guy that came over his backhand all the time. He didn't get a two-hander. He didn't get a lefty. He got a righty one-hander with a big serve and a big return who was good coming over the top of the return. And what did Lubicic do? He helped Fed come over the top of that darn ball and made him hit out on that ball every freaking time. And that's why he was relevant there in his last couple of slams, even though he was getting near the end and had so much success with the slice. So that to me is another one where Fed did everything else pretty well, but I think we all can. I think that
He
statement
did all
stands
right.
on.
Yeah.
So now you're tweaking small things. You're tweaking very small things to make sure that you are trying to get this, that, and the third with your game. And I think that's where these players are showing. I don't really count Emma. She's changed coaches too many times. She's changed coaches
Sure. Yeah.
like somebody's changed outfits going on a party dress. She's lost as far as I'm concerned. And I love her as a player. She's still trying to find, the nirvana that she had 5 years ago. Her and Layla are still trying to find that level of success, and they just have to both understand the moon, the stars, the sun align, and it happened. But don't put yourself up there at that level. That's not where you are. Put her off to the side. But for Iga, I think it's important. I think for Amanda, it's important for the now we're gonna round 2, year 2, the reprise, and I think for and I think for who's the young lady you just mentioned that's looking at a change. And let me say this before we move on. Coco's now seeing, it's been almost 6 months since US Open. She's just now seeing that jello effect I was talking about. Her technical changes, right, are starting to now set. The serve is looking better. The forehand is looking better. And I think that's important to understand that if you're trying to make these kind of changes in your game, you got to give the coach enough time to let some of these things actually change. And I think that's the other thing that needs to happen. You got to know what you need. You got to know what you're looking for, but you also have to let those changes take place. And while there's a short-term fix on that season with that coach, there's also, I want to be this much better next year. And I want to be that much better the following year. I don't want this. We can't get into a point where the coach is expected to, take you from 20 to 2, by next week. I mean, that's just, this ain't Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting because usually you see coaching changes happen in the off season, right? It's almost a merry-go-round of,
Right.
or what's that other term? I forget the term, but what doesn't matter what the term is.
Revolving
People
door.
are F1 calls it like silly season, right? Like where someone's
Right.
changing seats and someone's jumping into that seats. It all happens around that time.
Jump.
Hap-
Yeah. Jump
yeah,
seat. Yeah.
yeah, happening here, and as we switch into the clay court, it's interesting. I'm saying it right now. Anyone who wants to sell their Iga Swiatek stock, holler at me, because I'm buying. I'm buying.
Right.
I'm buying. She's still 24 years old,
Yeah.
and she won a Grand Slam last year, and she has 6 to her name. She's one away from the career slam. Let's not act like she's a joke or something. Like, this is,
100%.
she's still got it. She's lost it, right? And I think finding the right coach to help her find the best version of herself, which is marrying what she used to do really well to what today's game requires of her, in a space that she feels comfortable doing it in. I think that's probably what she's looking for, and we'll see who that ends up being.
But that's where I push back briefly. The game has changed. You
Sure.
got the big hitters. You got the Valkyrie coming in now. It's nothing about her. Like Hingis years ago, the game has simply gotten more physical. She's still that Iga. The problem is she's not having those same results, and she now has to upgrade. The V6 or the little 4-banger she had in there has now got to become a V6 with an HP engine. She's got to get more juice off the serve, Alvin, and look to first strike. But that doesn't mean that what she's been doing before was wrong. Lost it to me. I'm going to push back on that because I think that's actually the wrong term. However, I know what you mean. They simply, you're playing against girls. The average height is 3 to 5 inches taller. The ball speed is 10 to 15 miles an hour faster, and they're on the rise, and they return as good as she does, and they serve bigger. So where is her special? It's now average. It's not because she's gotten less. They've added more. And I think that's the key. I think you're dead right on everything else. I just want to make sure, and this outside of Raducanu, everybody else has to understand, look, we're just playing by stricter standards now. We just have to raise it up a level. And I'm trying to be that level, right? I'm trying to do more what I can do. We saw it with JPEG last year, changing coaches with Merklin and I forget the other Mark. And we saw it with Francis.
Knowles, yeah.
Mark Knowles, right. You got it now with Francis. And he did the same thing. Francis was a semifinals U.S. Open 2 years ago. He wants to make a push. I need somebody to help push me in that direction. Francis doesn't play any different. He's a little bit more physically fit. Had a great match with who he played this past week. What didn't he had a solid 3-setter with?
Yeah, I'm blanking, and I was there for the majority of it too. God bless it. It'll come to me later.
Anyway, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But my point is that they're making these changes to get back an edge that they felt they had then they don't have now. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's a shot, maybe it's just a tactic. But same thing. Can the coach provide it? Can the coach speak to them in a way that gets them, that kind of really speaks to where they are right now? And can the player really dial into what it is they're putting down? And can the player who knows themselves, this is what I need. What I don't like, and this is where I reference Emma, she's looking at someone to provide an answer or to get me back where I was. And I feel like that's not a true indication of where she is. Hitting bigger for Raducanu is a problem. Pecci said it a few times, on numerous, I think he has been in her box several times. If you don't possess that level of speed and you're not that level, that height and athleticism of a player, how are you going to hit bigger? And now I think that was a tactical adjustment that was wrong for her. But at this point, she's grasping at straws. You got to know yourself. Amanda Anisimova needs to continue to get in the most phenomenal shape, have the best recovery, have better margins, and she has to have the ability to have some level of a reset ball and not be so high risk, high reward, and get her body where it can handle the pounding that she's going to have because she's a bit streaky. Iga's got to get a serve, period in the story, and continue to make that be one of her main focus for the next several years going forward, and so on and so on and so on. You can go down the list. Coco, serve is just not coming around. Finish the drill, one of your favorite things, and keep working on it. You're halfway there. You're not finished, right? JPEG, continue to try to find ways to come forward. Continue to work on your fitness. ride out. You're 32, right? Ride out on your terms and do your thing. But I feel like the problem is people are looking, you can't look at this like I'm chasing a result or I'm trying to get back where I was or I've lost it. No, the game has moved on. And I
Well,
have to move on to join it.
I can't. Okay, I'm gonna re-push back. So Francis beat Bencic in that really good match. It was a
great match, by the way.
I watched the first 2 sets of that match and then shot over to see to catch up with Mickelson's match. But the difference between Francis and Iga is like Francis had a good run or two. Iga has won many Grand Slams, and when I say get back to where she is, it's not like you said the game has caught up and passed her. I'm not even willing to say that because it's not like she's hitting her head on the ceiling. It's not like she's losing to Rebecca and Sabalenka. She's losing to everyone else, right? Random losses to Maria Sakkari in the year 2026. Like, I know Maria's playing good ball right now, but that's like that's
not
a
forward top 5. But just saying.
Okay, fine. That's fine. But I think that's the kind of stuff where that's where we're having some concerns, right? Like, lost to Paolini at the back end of last year at some point. Okay, but yeah, no. And then losing to Magda Linette. Like, that's when we're starting to throw the flags, right? We're like, okay, fine. If we're going to lose to Anisimova here and there, if we're going to lose to Rebecca or Sabalenka, now you're raising you have a very good point. Like, okay, these are big hitters, and that's what the game requires of me, and I need to make some adjustments. Okay, that's fine. But when you're losing to Maria Sakkari, and as great as Aryna Sabalenka looks right now, like, that's not the profile of player we're talking about. That's a different problem. That's a whole different problem, right? That's the problem she's having is the I lose a set and things go, I can't get it back together. Like, win the first set, get all in a mess in the second set, and then the match falls apart. And that's what she's been speaking publicly about. Like, she's at a confidence kind of like roadblock right now, and getting back to her old self that was more confident. And if we net out at, okay, there are players that are just better than me, then that's fine. All I want a player to do is maximize their potential. And I don't think that bumping into and losing to Aryna Sabalenka and then following that up with losing to Magda Linette, that's not a reflection of her skill level. That's a reflection of she is somewhere not positive right now.
And heard and duly noted, it's the same reason why she's in that same spot. There's no way to upgrade what she does. And why is she holding on, getting a set lead and holding on for the win, Alvin? Because there's no other weapon on her, and she's trying to ride the match out off of momentum and off of who she is / used to be. I don't disagree with that.
That's fair.
And we can even agree, as we often do, we can agree to disagree. Both things can be true at the same time.
I agree. Yes, both things can be true at the same time. I agree with you in that, because I've talked about, like, if you can get through the first hour with Iga, you got yourself into something, but you better not be down a set in the break, because then you're in some...
And that, to me, is also Iga's bluff, right? But why does she have to bluff, Alvin? I would tell you she's bluffed a third of the time up to this point. She's bluffed because she has to. And if she gets those things, and now you can no longer bluff. The girls are too good. They will, and blood in the water, fair, but she's always done this. And she started off this schneid, losing to Aryna in the semis of French. She had a gift win, you heard it right here, in Wimbledon. We know that, right? Because Amanda took out Aryna, and then we have Aryna. Was it Aryna? Was it?
Yeah, she beat Aryna in the semis. Yeah.
So my point is, so now you're in this point where she didn't have to face Aryna at that tournament, right? Thank God. I hope she sends her a nice Christmas gift. But my point being, now we are in the thick of it, and now she's dropped from that perch of 2 or 3 or whatever in the world, and now she's facing those same players sooner. And the other players are like, don't sleep on me. The Magda Linettes and obviously the Aryna Sabalenkas, because they're playing some good ball right now. Yeah. And I'm telling you, without that serve and without the bluff and without the mystique of Iga Swiatek winning everything, Iga is now very human. And now, because they're fighting like they know they can beat her, Alvin, we just saw number 1 in the world go down and was looking pretty good most of the tournament until Peter Korda decided to push him to the third set. And he faded. This game will tax you to the nth degree. And I'm telling you, that showed me how close he was to losing to Fonseca, truth be told, which was the match before, because of that same mistake. And we're talking about Carlos.
Right.
6,
Yeah.
7 slams. So I'm just saying, I'm a huge Iga fan. I have always been. I will continue to be. But we gotta understand. If you're gonna be real, let's call it what a TI is. And you have got to make a point to fix those things and get rid of the smoke and mirrors and start to tactically didact your game and get back where it needs to be if you're trying to return to that podium.
Fair enough. I can leave it at that. We'll come back tomorrow after the men's final. We'll do the same thing, kind of talk about the season. But I feel good about it. That was fun. I'm Alvin. That's Tori. Best of 3. We are out.